Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another video, and today is the first day of the 12 days of Buildmas. If you don't know what this is, I'm going to be doing a challenge on my channel for the next 12 days where we are going to be uploading a build video every single day. They're not all going to be winter and Christmas themed, there's going to be a whole range, and most of these are coming from the community. You guys have given me your suggestions. There is still time to let me know what build you want to see, and hopefully I can obviously get around to them all. If not, they will come at some point in the new year, but I wanted to do a little challenge for the next 12 days. So today is a Winter Wonderland themed build. We are using the Frosted Heights floating island, and I'm going to completely decorate it in this winter theme. It's going to not so much be Christmas themed, it's going to be purely just winter, using a lot of the new stuff from the new starpath. So it's going to be very icy, very wintry. And the first thing I want to say just before we get started is there is a huge amount of you who are currently not subscribed but watch my content. So if you are not subscribed, please do consider subscribing if you want to see more DDV content from me. And obviously if you do want to follow along with my live streams and the 12 days of Buildmas, you can do so by subscribing and hitting the notification bell so it lets you know when I post a new video. And without further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, to start off with in the build, I've kind of placed some of the house skins I knew I was going to be using. There is majority premium shop house skins up here, I can't lie, because there's not too many wintry themed houses. I obviously did put the frozen castle up here because obviously it just fits perfectly, but a lot of these are premium shops, so if you don't have them, there are definitely houses you could use instead, and you could definitely use some of the actual character houses we have in game. Some of these I feel like could definitely work up here with the right kind of decorating around them. You could kind of integrate them into a winter village really well, but I wanted to go for a bunch of these premium shop houses that definitely fit the winter theme. And to start off with, I placed the frosted fortress in one of the back left corners and started decorating around that, and kind of worked on this island section by section. I kind of start in the top left, make my way round all the way around to the bottom to kind of decorate it as I go, just because I prefer building like this rather than kind of having a set kind of structure. I like to kind of do it bit by bit. I just find it works for me. So I started with that, started putting a lot of the foliage and decoration around the fortress and decorating the pathway leading out. And once I'd figured out the pathway for the Frosted Fortress, I started mapping out where I wanted the two palaces to go, and also some of the other bigger furniture items I wanted to dot around. And it did take me a bit of trial and error to figure out where I wanted things to go, just because I wasn't sure what kind of areas I wanted to have for each section. But I obviously wanted to have the two palaces together, so the Winter Palace from the premium shop, and obviously the Frozen Palace, because I felt like they could have this more kind of royal structured area. And then obviously the Frosted Fortress is more of a kind of rural area. I added in some of the mushrooms mushrooms and the glowing plants from the Storybook Vale DLC to give it this nice whimsical vibe, and obviously matching that in with the crystals from the Starpath gave it this really nice kind of mystical fairy core look. And I also included the stone circle that you get from Merida's friendship quest to be again this kind of like mystical kind of fairy core area. I felt like it just looked really whimsical out here, and I kind of integrated that in with a lot of the Starpath items and the foliage. Now for the kind of like more royal structured section, I actually wanted to use some of the new items we got in the premium shop yesterday, which is these kind of like sparkly hedges as well as the illuminated fountain. These came literally in the shop at the perfect time because I was waiting to this build, and luckily I could include them. So I actually decided to use the hedges to kind of mark this area in and give it some structure. Now my only thing with these hedges that I found kind of difficult was the fact they don't match up perfectly. They have like a gap between them, so to counteract that, I included some of the raw iron fences and created these little like square fence posts that I added some of the little clocks to, just to kind of make it look a little bit better, kind of counteract the fact that the hedges don't go flush, and I actually really liked doing it that way. And then I added in a little gazebo to end off the hedges just so it kind of blended in nicely. The other end of the hedges I'll use like a tree or something to kind of blend it in so it doesn't look as weird, but I felt like this was a good way to kind of counteract that. And then I started filling in the gazebo with lots of nice cozy items and some wintry seating. Now for this more royal area, as you can see, I've created these lines of hedges to kind of give it this nice structure, as well as adding in the lamppost and the fountain in the middle to give it a really nice kind of royal feel. And I also decided to add a little table next to the frozen house where kind of people would sit. I then went in and started rotating some of the houses I wanted to create outside of this royal area, which I wanted to be kind of like a little rural village is what I kind of wanted it to feel like, but I wanted to keep the structure of this very separate to the royal area. So when mapping in the kind of royal section, I added in the table, made sure I could figure out the spacing just so things weren't overlapping, and then also added in some of the glowing mushrooms because I actually forgot to add these before. There are things that I do go in and add as I go because I do forget that they exist. So they went back into the build as we went on, and then I continued with figuring out the table. Now after that I went in and started adding some melted candles around the areas that I'd already built. As you know, I'm a huge fan of melted candles in general in builds, but in a build like this where it is so warm and whimsical and kind of has that wintry festive feel, melted candles I just feel like give it such a nice vibe. And obviously as this is on a floating island, I didn't have to worry about item count and things like that, so I knew I could have a lot of freedom with adding a lot of foliage and a lot of smaller items around like the melted candles. So with these bits I'd already decorated, I went around and dotted those in and kind of added them about. I probably do go in later and add more in, knowing me, but for now this is what I popped in, and then I finish off the pathways. Now the next section we're moving on to is the winter village section. So outside of this kind of royal area, I wanted it to feel like that. And apologies for the lighting change. I realised how dark it had gotten and I was like, I cannot see what I'm building. So I did change it to daytime. So I'm sorry if that burnt anyone's eyeballs out. I apologise. But I did change it today and I started figuring out the houses, and I actually swapped out the confectionery shop for the Bell Library house because I felt like the confectionery shop just did not work how I wanted it to. It looked a bit too structured for the fact I was going for like a whimsical village. It kind of just wasn't working and I wasn't too fan of it. It actually would look really nice in a Winter Wonderland build because of its colours, so I would love to see if anyone manages to kind of integrate that, because I'm sure someone else definitely will be able to. But I just felt like for this particular spot and it feeling like a kind of natural cozy village, it just fit, the library just fit better basically. So I added that in, and then I started figuring out where I wanted to kind of put the rest of the buildings and map in the pathway, and then also kind of looked at how I could structure it so that it all kind of flowed nicely. Now for this section I did use a lot of pathway because I wanted it to be this open courtyard section, and as you'll see as I go through the build, I kind of have these two sections very pathway based, and then the one up to the Frosted Heights house, and then also the next section I do after this are a lot more kind of open and just using rocks. So I wanted it to have that kind of variety, but I wanted to add obviously a lot of pathway in here so it felt like an actual little village. I added in a little food truck because I felt like the blue colour of it went really well and fit the village theme, and I started adding in as well some little stalls and little like food areas to kind of map in where I wanted everything to go. Now after I'd added in some rock spots to the village, I actually decided to swap the fountain out for the well because I was like, oh no, where am I going to put the well? So I did swap that, and then I added the illuminated fountain into the royal section instead because I felt like it worked better. And then I started working on my final corner of this island, which is going to be a very whimsical, very open area. I wanted it to feel less structured, and I started off by creating a little section to display the ice skating rink that we got in last year's Winter Starpath. I had to have this up here somewhere. It is such a gorgeous item and I just loved having this kind of open area for it. I wanted it to feel like the people in the village would come out and would go ice skating, so I included that in there. And I also include a bunch of other festive items I had left. I've still got the beautiful gazebo to use, and I also wanted to include one more house. I was debating adding Merlin's, but the green grass just wasn't working for what I wanted to go for, so I was debating what other house would work, and I actually decided on the witchy cottage. I felt like the purple actually worked really well. I know it's probably not a house people would associate with the winter time. They'd probably think it's more of a spooky Halloween house, but the purple just worked so well with the theme, and so I decided to actually just be a little bit brave and use this house. So I do add that in, and then I start figuring out where I want all the furniture that I had left to go. So I start kind of organizing it into sections so that I can make sure I include everything I want to include. I do end up using a lot of starpath screwed premium shop stuff that I have, so I wanted to pack as much of it into this tiny little island as possible. So I started kind of moving that about, figuring it out, and then moving the house to this corner location where I wanted it to be. Now for this little gazebo, I wanted to create a really kind of cozy seating area, but again, it to have this really kind of regal feel, because this gazebo is so unbelievably beautiful. I just love the style of it. So I wanted to definitely make it a nice centerpiece. So I do use it over here, and I do kind of chop and change what I want to do with it, but I end up adding some seating into it and also making it this really nice cozy hangout spot, and using the Beauty and the Beast lion statues out the front to kind of fit in with that more kind of structured look. So after that, I start making a rock path up to the witchy cottage. Now, I probably will replace this house eventually with the one from the star path. I was hoping to get it unlocked before this video, but that was definitely just not going to happen. Because if you know, the tasks at the end of the star path are days long, so I knew I probably wouldn't get it in time. So I decided I'll pop this in for now, and I probably will change it out for the new one eventually, or do a build with the other house eventually. But I knew that for now I definitely wanted to include it, so I started making a path up to it, figuring out the trees and the decorations behind and in front of it, and also figuring out the section to the right of it, which I decided I was going to use the frozen pillars that were from Scrooge's. You get a pillar in each of the different elements. These are from the Frozen realm, and I wanted to put these in here to fit that witchy vibe. I feel like they just make sense next to this house and give it this nice whimsical witchy look. So I start structuring those, and then also adding some more whimsical decorations around them to fit the witch theme, as though the witch who lives in this house has got this place in this area that has definitely got that more mythical vibe. And for the final thing and the final touches, I decided to go in, obviously add a bunch of foliage all around the build, kind of figure out these final furniture items I wanted to include, and also make sure that the lighting and everything was how I wanted it to look. So I did go off camera and like test the biomes throughout the different times of day to make sure everything was lit. A lot of the furniture in here does light up by itself, so that definitely helped, but I wanted to make sure everything was, as well as all the plants and everything like that, were also glowing as intended, and obviously finished up with the foliage to make sure everything was looking very whimsical and very overgrown. The final touches was adding again some big trees into the back, as well as some rock spots in the middle. I wanted it to feel like when you're walking around these kind of narrow pathways that the other sections are blocked off and you can like see the other sections. I wanted it to feel very enclosed. And then after that, as I said before, I added in the final few melted candles into these last two sections to make sure they were everywhere, absolutely as many places I could fit them. So here we are in the final build, and we are going to start in the winter village. As you can see when we go in, this area I've put in sunset so that we can see everything kind of glowing but still be visible. And I've obviously got the three little cottagey houses with lots of decorations all around. We've got the little swing bench in the corner with some stalls in there with some presents in them. I added a couple of presents around because I wanted the village to have a little bit more of a colour pop to it. So I did add a couple gifts in, obviously not too many because I didn't want it to feel too Christmassy. And then obviously by the front of the houses we have got all the decorations, lots of crystals, and some of the clock towers at the front of the royal section, which as you can see when we go in is fenced off, and it has got the illuminated fountain right in the middle. I absolutely love this fountain, it works so well in here. And on the right we have the frozen castle with their little seating area outside to hang out at. I just love how this area looks, and adding the piano and the harp just added that little touch of people being entertained here. And then obviously next to that we have got the frozen fountain, and then we have got the Disney kind of palace castle, the winter one, and then we have our little seating area next to that in the gazebo. As you can see, Merlin's hanging out here currently, and we've got the little barbecue that we got in the starpath and some little seats. And then opposite that we have got the little igloo just to be an extra little addition here. Now through the sparkling hedges, which I just love, we go to our frosted fortress area. Now as you can see, this area is a lot more overgrown and less royal and kind of more whimsical. We've got the new lamppost leading us down, again more of the crystals and a gorgeous mushroom and a lot of like mushy plants and storybook veil plants to fit in with this house skin. And then on our little secret pathway out to the left we have got the Merida stone circle, and then I've popped the little star path fountain in the middle and lots of crystals to make it look like this kind of whimsical little area. Heading out of there, we are going to run all the way back through what we have just seen and head into our final section. As you can see, all the way through the build, I've added in the lamppost from last year's Winter Star Path. And then as we head through this archway, we have got our final section, which is, again, is this super open section. On the right, we have our ice skating rink, a little bench outside and lots of snowmen to welcome you in. We've got the ice skating rack, and then the little Toy Story figure that we got in this Star Path. And then opposite that, we have got the gorgeous, gorgeous gazebo, which I've added some seating into. Lots of kind of ice decorations outside, and then we have our witchy cottage, which I feel like I've done a good job of integrating in here. I think the purple mushroom next to it really helped and kind of tied it in with the colours. And then the final section we've got is our little witch kind of shrine area. I added in the Dreamlight fountain that you get from Fairy Godmother, and that is the whole island decorated. I hope you guys did enjoy. Here are some shots of how it looks. I absolutely loved doing this, and I feel like it turned out as I wanted it to. I didn't really go in with much of a plan. I genuinely just went in with all the furniture and houses I wanted to use and was like, let's figure this out as we go. So it was definitely a big learning experience to kind of figure it out, not really have a plan, but I'm genuinely happy with how it turned out. I'm glad I did it in different sections, so each section feels very, very different, and very, very unique, which I really like. But I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know down below what you think of the Winter Floating Island Village, and I hope you guys are enjoyed the first video of the 12 days of Buildmas. As I said at the beginning, there will be a build video all the way from the 12th to the 24th of December on my channel, so make sure you subscribe down below and hit the notification bell if you want to keep on top of all of those, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!